All right, I'm Kyle Miller, Director of the Delta Culture Center, and I am here super excited with the author of the book, I Believe in You, The Incredible Journey of R&B Legend Johnnie Taylor, Mr. Greg Hasty. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing great, Kyle. Appreciate you having me, and it's an honor to be here.
Oh no, man, we're super excited. I mean, you can't talk about the blues or talk even about R&B music in the Delta without mentioning Johnnie Taylor. I mean, the legendary music that he's had and the impact that he's had throughout the years is amazing. So I'm super excited that you took the time to write this book. And just wanted to first ask you, why Johnnie? Why did you pick Johnnie?
You know, it was by accident, really. I was writing another book at the time, and we were doing biographies of individuals from my hometown. And one of those was Johnnie Taylor, but I needed a photo. So I went to a friend of mine, and he pointed me in the direction of T.J. Hooker Taylor, who provided a photo, and then he got to talking to me about doing a biography for his dad. And learning more about him, I found that he would be a great person to do a story on. He's had a colorful life.
Definitely. So then how did the book all come together?
Well, it was very difficult because, as you know, Johnny's been gone for about 24 years. And a lot of the stories, 24 years, it seems so more recent than that. But he was not documented as much as maybe if a star today would be. And so it was very difficult getting information about his life there. So it took a lot of research, interviews with a lot of his children and past girlfriends and proteges in the blues field. So it all came together, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah, and then I'm glad you mentioned that. How did you deal with the family? We've seen some of the things on social media and even on TV. It's been a little contentious, with different parts of the family. So was that an issue too, trying to get various family members to talk, or were they protective of their dad's image or things of that nature?
The ones I talked to were not protective of what they knew. There was one girlfriend that didn't want to be named in the book, which I respected, and so we didn't name her. Mm-hmm. But there's two factions, really, what they call the acknowledged children and the unacknowledged children. Mm-hmm. And so when Johnnie died, his estate had to determine where his proceeds would go, and so that's where the contention started, because the unacknowledged children wanted to have their fair share, and so there was some acrimony between the two groups because of that. Yeah. And so even today they don't talk, and they're not friendly. So as I've told other people, when I talked to TJ and he asked me to write this book, he asked me to speak to certain ones and not to others because they wouldn't add anything productive to the book. So I followed his instructions on that.
Yeah, and as you were putting together, and you said that you've been colorful. Without telling, we don't want to tell the whole book.
We don't want to give away all of it.
We don't want to give away all the good stuff. But can you kind of just walk us through some of it, some of the challenges and things that Johnnie faced growing up?
Yes, Johnnie was, the best way to describe Johnnie, he was a very complicated man. He had two internal forces pulling in opposite directions. He was a very religious man, and in the book you'll see how religious he actually gets. And at the same time he had his demons, like we all do. Being in the entertainment business, everybody is surrounded by things that are not a good example. And so Johnnie would succumb to those. And so he had his issues with drugs and women and alcohol and those sort of things, which a lot of performers do. But he fought through that and accomplished so much in a 50, 60-year career that it's really hard to believe that he had those challenges and still persevered.
Yeah. And I know one thing the book talks about him and his start into gospel, and even one of his music idols, I guess you could say, Sam Cooke, who obviously going from soul stars and going into secular. Just a little bit without giving too much away, how did he make that transition?
Yeah, Johnnie was a gospel singer for probably the first 15 years of his career. He started early at the age 6, and the book tells about how he got his start and how his stardom really started at an early age. And he met Sam Cooke in Chicago while he was touring with the Melody Kings, which was a Kansas City doo-wop group, not doo-wop group, but an R&B gospel type group. And when he met Sam, Sam was 3 years older, and he was a giant influence in his life. And so not only was he a little bit older, but he became a mentor. He became someone that he followed and really respected and admired. And so they were both gospel singers, but Sam early on got into secular music because, number one, that's where a lot of the money was at that time, and a lot of the gospel singers didn't make that much.
So, probably pay with a chicken dinner.
Yeah, you get a free dinner and
some lemonade.
Some lemonade, a free night stay somewhere. So he talked Johnny into transitioning from gospel over to secular, and Johnny at the time needed money, so it kind of happened at the right time for him.
Was that a tough transition for him?
It was a tough transition because, number one, there was a huge divide at the time, which is interesting, between gospel listeners and blues listeners. They thought blues was music of the devil. And so when he thought about changing, he would have to really fight through that with his fans. And so I'm sure he lost some fans, but gained some on the other side. So it wasn't an easy transition, but it's one that he made and eventually succeeded.
I would imagine when you're doing research for a book like this, you find out a lot of different things. Is there anything that surprised you, you know, as you're doing research about John? Surprised you?
Yeah, and number one, I didn't know he was an ordained minister.
Really?
Yes. He was.
Did he ever preach?
Yes, he did. He preached quite a bit. There's an accident mentioned in the book. Many of you may have heard of it before, but after that, he went into full-time preaching.
Really? Now, what year was that?
It was probably in the, let's see, late 50s,
okay.
60s, something like that.
Okay.
And he was in Chicago, and that's where he was ordained by some Baptist ministers. And then after this accident, he felt like he had to go out and spread the word of God because he really had a lot of remorse about what happened. And so he preached for probably about 2 years in Chicago and LA before he got back into music.
And you talking about that in Chicago and LA, and he did some moving around, and then I think he wound up in Dallas.
Yes.
Why Dallas?
Yeah, Dallas
Doesn't
is
seem
kind
like
of,
an artist place to.
no, it doesn't seem
Why
like
not
a
LA?
natural
Why not
place.
LA or New York or maybe even Nashville? Why Dallas?
Yeah, it was by accident. He would do his touring throughout the country. He toured a lot in the South and Southwest, and Dallas was one of his stops.
Oh.
And every time he went to Dallas, he got such a good, warm welcome that he, it began to grow on it a little bit. And then the more he showed up, the fan base grew, and they just really had him in high regard. And he was in LA at the time, and it was a big culture change because in LA, he was, as I was telling you earlier, he was a small fish in a big pond, and now in Dallas, he was something special. Yeah. And LA got kind of hard on him. It was just a drudgery type of thing. So Dallas was refreshing, it was new, he had a big fan base, and so he started hanging around Dallas more.
So I gotta ask you this, the title of the book, obviously is one of his biggest hits, I believe. Why did you pick that at the time?
It was actually picked by the co-author, T.J. Taylor. I guess that's maybe one of his favorite songs, and plus it gives a message of how Johnny was. And he sang that song about the time that he and his wife had just been married, and she really believed in him, and Johnny believed in her, and so that song really captured his feeling towards his wife and his music and so forth. So that's why TJ asked me to put the name of the song on the book.
Now, I gotta ask about one song. This is one song that Johnny's known. He's known for a lot of songs, but one song he's definitely known for was Just So Late, which was kind of a little bit of a departure in his genre and style. And can you talk a little bit about that song, how that song all even came together? Because it was really a breakout song and a totally different sound for him at that particular season.
You're right about that, Kyle. I mean, it was a departure from what he had been doing. The Stacks folded in 65, I think it was.
Maybe 75.
75, I get that wrong, 75. And he didn't have a home, but Columbia Records handpicked some of the Stax artists they wanted to come over, and they were interested in broadening their R&B field. So he was picked up by Columbia, and Columbia being a giant behemoth of a recording outfit, they wouldn't really notice someone coming in unless they did something special. So they put together this song, brought it to Johnny, and at first he didn't like it. And
Really?
yeah,
He didn't like
he
it?
did not like Disco Lady. He said it. What's this hoogity boogity stuff? That was his quote. And his producer and all his close friends said, "Johnny, it's gonna be a hit. Just believe us." So he eventually gave in and did the song. And he was, I guess, attacked a little bit by some of the blues fans that it really wasn't a blues song, but it was more so R&B than it was disco. And he really hated the fact that people thought he was a disco singer, because he definitely was not.
No, it's not really a disco song.
No, it's got an R&B beat and probably one of the more danceable tunes that he ever recorded.
Wow. Anything else that you like people to know?
Yeah, Johnny was a very generous person, and a lot of that he kind of kept to himself, but he would play for old folks' homes. He would go to assisted living,
Really?
not ask for any money. He would just show up and play and entertain the people there.
Wow.
He would show up at clubs where his friends were singing, and he would support them by maybe getting up and singing a song, and that would bring more people in and bolster their recognition within the city. So he did a lot of that. He would encourage up-and-coming performers and give them advice on what to do and what not to do, as well as his generosity. He was very generous to the Boys and Girls Club. He was a Mason, like I was talking about earlier. He's 33rd degree Mason. Don't know how he had time to do all that.
33rd degree Mason?
Yes.
How do you have time to do that and then be okay?
It's really crazy what all he was able to accomplish. But I guess what I didn't know was how generous he was, and how everybody, to a person I talked to in the interview, said that he was the best person and the nicest guy you've ever met.
Who were some of his friends?
In Dallas, Ernie Johnson, Bobby Patterson were probably two of his closer ones.
Are they industry people?
They were both blues singers and still are. Bobby Patterson and Ernie are still performing, as well as Gregory Smith, who's a friend of mine and DJ in Dallas, and he also sings blues a lot. He makes the tour around, so those are some of his closest friends, and they were all in Dallas.
Good deal. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure. I believe in you, the incredible giant R&B legend Johnnie Taylor. This is Greg Hasty. He will be here for the next few days during King Biscuit, and also to the Front Porch series. He'll be here signing books and doing a little bit of talk, so you can come in during Front Porch. And also Friday and Saturday, he'll also be at the Visitor Center signing books. So guys, you gotta get this book. It's amazing. You can come, you can get to see Greg and talk to him and sign and get your book signed. And so it's just gonna be an amazing time with an amazing artist and amazing book. So please come out and see it, and come out and join us at Front Porch starting today at noon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.